Morning everybody. Okay, so we work with a whole range of different schools, from nurseries, primaries, secondaries, even hospital schools like Rail on the Street. And the one thing that we do is aim for parental engagement. And we started doing this about 6 years ago. And 6 years ago, if you said social media and schools in the same sentence, you were almost cast out like somebody particularly evil. Nowadays, though, with the things that we've learned and the things that we've seen coming back to us from Ofsted and from our own data, we know that the attitude towards social media has changed a lot for schools, and it's changed for the organisations who inspect schools, which is good. So I'm going to try and split this talk into what is it that parents want and what is it that schools want. I'm going to try and break that down a little bit, and we'll start with what we believe parents want. The first thing that we feel that they want is this. It's a little peep behind that curtain into the magic of your school. I did a workshop once where I asked people to make a list of all things that they as people, particularly as parents, things that they perceived as magic, things that were beyond their understanding that school did. And that list ranged from getting them to behave, because I can't, to learning to read, to all these big things that schools take for granted. But to parents, it's absolute magic. And what parents want and what they love is a peek behind the school curtain to start understanding some of that magic, because they've invested the most precious thing in their lives in your school, and that's their child. I've done it 3 times. I've got 3 kids in 3 different schools, and there's a lot of feeling behind that. What I'm looking for, and what we know parents are looking for, is reaffirmation that the decision to send our child there was a good one. And when that's been proved, I want to tell my mates, and I want them to sort of realise how great it is here. And in the trust environment, in schools who may have, they may have been in difficulty at some point, and they're now working together to improve things. Communities have a very long memory. Very long memory. The press has an even longer memory for reputation. I worked with one school where the head teacher told me, she said, every time we're in the newspaper, the same photograph, it's of me holding a red bucket under my chin looking sad. And it was from an incident where they had a leaky roof. And then whenever that school is featured in the press for any story, the leaky roof photo comes out. They're so lazy in the world of media. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, because one of the things that head teachers tell us they love is being able to tell their own story, being able to become the authority in a situation. Instead of being subject of, they become the authority in everything to do with their school. So, your job and our job when we're working with schools is to help share the school story. We use all sorts of things, social media listening tools. We do face-to-face stuff with groups of parents as well as staff. And you get really obvious questions. So we've got a trust in Bolton now who are doing some interesting things. They're just getting going. And the questions that are coming through are things as simple as, why do we need another school? This is parents. Why do we need another school? Will it bring any benefits to what we're doing? What sort of organisation is this? So the trust that we're involved with also has a school coming through in a completely different part of the country. And so the trust to this community over here is alien. They don't know them from Adam. And there's a really big convincing job to do that this organisation coming in to help are not the big dark evil thing that they don't know. So using social media and using tools and techniques that we've got, you can actually start to listen to parents without them realising sometimes they're being listened to. But you can also do face-to-face things like this that will inform the social media strategy for your school. And when it comes together with your school communication plan, it's a really powerful thing. Here are some other things that people wonder about. The one that I've bolded up there is to do with stress. Stress is a really powerful thing. Sometimes it can have positive results, but mostly negative, we find. And when there's stuff to do with children and new schools and change, particularly change that maybe wasn't communicated all that well originally, that's when stress comes in. Do you know you know the issue that causes most stress across all the schools we work with, primaries anyway? Do you know the single issue that causes most stress? I'll save your brains. It's dress-up days. Theme days. Anything where the kids have to go looking different to how they normally go. You would not believe the stress that you see bubbling up from social media and the questions parents are asking about. Is it Thursday? Is it Friday? Are they in bed? Can they come with... And there are real stress caused by change. And sometimes that's because the school hasn't had the chance or thought to communicate something ahead of time. So we talk about this as being the parent journey. And the parent journey for us is all about that. It's about first impressions. It's about the emotional response that a parent gets when they come to meet the head or they come to the office and they make contact with the organisation. Usually they come and their emotions up there. I'll show you with a bit of an example. So, imagine you've got a pet. The pet's poorly. This is a little happy sad graph. This is monitoring your emotional state. Phoning the vet, you're quite happy because you're being proactive, you're doing something about it, you're in control. Brilliant. Boom, put it in the basket. That's stressful. Doesn't want to be there. Driving to the vet, waiting. In the consultation, getting closer to a solution maybe. Examinations and injections, horrible, but then back in the basket, yay, we're all happy again with the big green blob. Back on the counter, bit stressful, payment. Nobody likes parting with cash, so I'm feeling like that. And maybe that experience with the busy person on the desk, maybe that's a bit cold. That'll be £300, please, sir. Suddenly, I'm falling out with the vet suddenly because they're taking my cash, and she's rude. Driving home, out of the basket, everybody's happy, cup of tea, biscuit, happy days. Now, if you look at that in terms of a school event, I always wanted to use the flame animation. I don't know if you saw it, I managed to stick it in because I used the word fire. Imagine you're running a stakeholder event at school. That's exactly the same graph as we just did with the cat. But that's the same emotional journey that parents are potentially going on. And what we've got to do is try and squash that out so that you've got a lot more greens and it's a lot less. And you can do that with very precise use of social media communication, because social media is timely, it's effective, it's short, it's easy to understand, and it's informed by data and intelligence that we provide as part of what we do. So, we want to preempt fires, we want to avoid stress, we want happy parents. Why do we want happy parents? Well, because if you've got a parent who's up here, and it's always that parent who ends up at the head's office. They never end up at the head's office because they're really happy at school. They end up at the head's office and they're up here. The odds are that they will flip further about something really, really small. It could be like that phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back, you know? So the parents coming in with their stress jug full, it's brimming. Something tiny happens, and poof, they've gone again. So if you can get things down, you will actually do a lot better. So what challenges do parents actually face? Well, in the new school scenario, in the trust scenario, these are the main challenges. Communication is absolutely critical, and you will probably have a wider communication plan. And these are some of the key ones that we've just picked out for you. Parents want to know, well, where can I air my questions? Where can I get answers? They're also facing challenges about planning ahead in uncertain times. The timeline of the trust that we're working with is doing that. Woo! Going to be built, it's not going to be built. There's a problem with the site, there isn't a problem with the site. It's unbelievable. And if you imagine trying to communicate with parents, a nice coherent message, with the sand shifting under everybody like that, that makes communication suddenly incredibly important. You've got to be listening and you've got to be judging as part of your whole school how you're going to manage that stress for the parents, because it will be through the roof. Keeping up to date with the project, it's also a biggie. What you want to avoid is parents huddling together in social media land, going to each other, because that's the rumour mill.
Can I raise a point on that?
Of course.
Kids' school, some parents have created some parents have created year group Facebook groups that mind about mums.
Right.
Yeah. And the school has had a recent change of SLT and has started to embrace the social media technology that runs with the feed. But I went to the first parent voice meeting, and a lot of the meeting was around these Facebook groups, very cliquey. One year in particular is very, there's a few months on there who are quite naming kids, naming teachers, school have taken steps. But one of the things that parents raise, would it be worth the school setting something up? And obviously the schools are looked because they have to manage it and things like that.
Yeah.
What sort of, because obviously you've been around a lot of schools,
Yeah.
primary schools where this happens.
Yeah.
What is sort of the advice and the way to go potentially?
Okay, well, the way that we do it and what we see happen is there's often schools where that's happened, so the school stepped back from social media because of all the things which historically frightened people. As a result of that, in that vacuum, other things happen. Groups form, alpha mums get together, and it can be painful. But what we find is that when you position the school in social media as well, what happens is, yes, you will still get some mums over here, and it is the mums, sorry, we've got the data to show it, some of them will stay over here, but the majority will go, actually, I'm going to go here instead, because this is the authoritative place for where we get our stuff from about the school. Now, what we always have schools doing is communicating very clearly the goalposts, how we are going to use social media, how we are not going to use social media. This is what it's for, this is what it's not for. So if you can actually take them down a path whereby you are crystal clear about why you're there, why you're not there, get yourself in the space, what you'll find is that these little bushfires, they will die down, and the majority of your parents will come here, because in our experience, 99% of the parent community is batting for you like crazy. There's 1-2% who are bonkers. That's the reality. And it's the bonkers ones who you only ever listen to, because that hurts. Yeah. I'm a bonkers parent, that's why I can say that they're bonkers. Okay. So, what we actually try and do is preempt all of that, get the schools in the right place, using the right language at the right times, at the right days, using the right sort of updates, based on the right sort of data, so that you can actually start damping things down and take it forward on your terms, and everybody's on board then. But these silly little bushfires, they will die down. Talk more afterwards if you like. I'm just mindful of that. I don't want to make everybody wait too long.
No.
I'm just talking through, but that's broadly, that's the way to forward. So Blipit solution, if you're a multi-academy trust, you need something overarching. And everybody in your trust needs to be singing to that, I can't believe I'm going to use that cliche, singing on the same, on the same page of the hymn book. But everybody does need to be in tune. And one of the things that we do is, the work that we do with trust is we make sure that that plan is in place, it's written and done with different stakeholder groups, and then that is cascaded and the schools within the trust deliver to that strategic plan. So, what is it that schools and trusts want? We've heard what the parents want. So if we are coherent, we can provide coherent communication to parents, lower the stress. What about schools and trusts? What do they want? And why would they do this in the first place? Well, this lady is a head from Lancashire, formerly the head at Whittle Primary, now the head at Salisbury. And I'm going to just play a 1.5 minute snippet of something she said at an event.
One of the things we have done is be able to engage with parents before they get to our school. You know, parents that are starting to look for schools now and make the choices. When I sent the information out, I said, start to have a look at us, come and see us, and have a look, joining our Facebook community. There you'll get a flavour of what school life is already about. And we did get a parent in September that didn't want to come to our school. We were second choice, so they didn't want to come. So they were quite disgruntled that they hadn't got the first choice. Rang up and said, you know, I'll come and have a look at you. And I knew by the tone of the voice I hadn't got a happy chappy on my hands coming in. But in between, he had gone on the Facebook page. By the time he come to me, which was 24 hours later, he said, I like it. I said, you've not been in yet? He said, I like it. I like what I'm going to get back. I like the way that you talk to parents. I like what I'm seeing. So it was sold before. Now, I'm not saying that will work with everyone, because other people might go on and think, no, thank you. But it worked there, and that's something we need to think about, is different ways of getting there. Now, I'd like to say I was pioneering in this and I've done it all by myself, but it's not. I have had my hand held along the journey. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't quite know how to do it. And obviously, having somebody there, a company there that can take the professional angle has been an absolutely valuable tool for me. So I have had my hand held along the journey, but it's been absolutely valuable, and I know he's in the audience, so you can call him later if you like. But it's also been very much about working this in alongside where we're going with the school and our internet safety is. It's not an add-on, it's part of our school improvement journey.
So, straight from a head teacher who we've now been working with probably for 6 years across 2 different schools, and I loved what she said. The parent said, I like how you talk to parents. Not talk at, not condescend, not issue updates to, but talk to. And in the social world, that's critical. And if you find yourself broadcasting and giving operational updates to parents all the time, you're going to lose. They don't want another nag in their life saying, don't forget it's this on Wednesday, don't forget. What they actually want is something they can engage with, buy into, see the values of. So, these are the challenges that school face. I was chatting with somebody about rebranding before. Rebranding is a big one. How do you share your ethos and align that with the processes that you've got going on in school? I don't know if you've looked at the updates on the website guidance for this year yet, but having the statement about ethos and values has been added this year in September. You've got to have that on your website, very exciting. You've now got the opportunity to make that come to life. A statement of ethos, etc. It's all very exciting and thrilling for Ofsted to see, oh yeah, they've got a statement about ethos tick. But how do you make that come to life? How do you enable parents to actually go, wow, I see that ethos in action there. That's how it's working. The other challenge is responsiveness while delivering. So you're busy doing the day job. You're either wrestling with the network, wrestling with learning, or wrestling with business admin. You're busy wrestling. And one of the challenges is, how do you find the capacity to do all this stuff? Because social media is in the moment. You need to be responsive. How do you do it? Well, the strategy basically that we put in with, that we develop, the trusts, is designed around giving you the capacity to actually deal with it with support. Do it in a way that's realistic. We've been working with schools now for over 20 years. We know what life is like in school. We're not out of touch. We're in school most weeks. And it's not easy juggling. And this potentially could feel a bit overwhelming. So the effect, the blip effect as we like to call it, is that it starts to feel a lot more manageable. You've hopefully scanned the last column already, but some of the mechanical things that we do is we put support in, physical support in terms of people. We build capacity. It was interesting to hear Phil say that one of the ways that Virtue actually works is that they put a big onus on developing people. We're exactly the same, and if we can work closely enough with the school, we want to be developing the team in school so that they are confident in the job that they're performing, communicating with parents. You get detailed data, you get lots of opportunities to reflect on what happened the previous month. You can go to Ofsted or SLT and go, wallop, there's our evidence of parental engagement. Those are our headlines. And I'll show you some graphs, because you like graphs, probably, do you? Do you like graphs? You're genetically disposed to like graphs. You're in education, I'm sorry, so I'll show you some graphs. Here's a graph. You'll have seen this one before. That's where people are. Facebook, that's where all your mums and dads and families, etc. are. Facebook, followed by WhatsApp. This is 2016. And there are lots of other tools there as well. Skype, 300 million users, 320 million on Twitter. Some people like to dip the toe in Twitter. I've got a video about that if you want to watch it on the website. In the UK, this is age and gender, people using Facebook. Now I'll go back to my comments about the ladies. No offence, ladies, you're a minority in this room, but you're a majority in terms of how you talk to schools. Mums do all the talking with schools. If a dad speaks, we jump a bit quicker. Because blokes have a habit, and I can say this because I am one, we have a habit of skipping the filtering process. We go straight from brain to keyboard. So if we see a dad joining in with something, we go, just have a look at that a little bit quicker. Usually it's fine. But we have had the odd dad who hasn't gone, just put that through my common sense filter first. That happens with chaps less than the ladies. And it's interesting because if you look at the stats there, this little peak group, there are technically more men using Facebook than the females, and yet it's the ladies who do all the talking. So, here's an example of some data. This is weekly data, and it shows you the different kinds of activity that happened over a week. And you get to see and start to understand who's doing what in what way, because you can engage in social media in different ways, and this data gives you an idea of who's doing what do they like. Obviously Wednesday was quite a day, and the back end of the week is usually pretty eventful. Saturday, Sunday, forget it. Forget it. But when on those days is it a useful time to get parents' attention? When are they sat ready listening? The data will tell this school that in their community, obviously, early hours, waking up, lunchtime, afternoon, 5 o'clock, boom, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, bye-bye. So as a school, that presents us with some interesting challenges to solve. How do we hit those parents, metaphorically speaking, at the times that they are actually engaged? Do we have to be sat at our computers at those times to reach them at those times? No, we don't. There are ways to do that. So I have hit my time limit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a recorded version of this slide set for you, and then the bits that I've not managed to do, you'll be able to watch those, if that's okay. What I would say is that in terms of where you are now, you are the author of your own story as a school. You've got lots behind you, lots in front of you, and you've got inspiration all around you. Don't be afraid to draw upon it, but you will need to actually get round to actioning that in strategic form. I'll leave the prices slide in the one that I publish for you, and if anybody does want to get in touch, those details will be in the slides as well. And